Hi guys, we're going to wait a couple of minutes for more people to join, so just bear with me for a second. Okay, so I think we can start. So, hi everyone, welcome to CV Essentials Medics Edition. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Ivana, and today we're going to talk about something that every medical student eventually realizes it's extremely important, so our CVs. So whether we're applying for internships, research positions, electives, your CV will be one of the first impressions people have for you. And like in medicine, where everything is already very competitive, standing out really matters. But before we begin, I would like to present you to the networking team that made all this possible. So first, what is Mission Brain? Mission Brain, it's a nonprofit organization and with chapters and universities around the world. Wait, sorry, I'm missing one slide. Well, our mission is basically to help provide neurosurgical resources and support to less fortunate countries through fundraising and awareness. So now I will leave the QR code on the screen for a few seconds if you like to support our mission. Okay. And now, without further delay, I'm very happy to introduce a colleague of mine from San Raffaele University, Matteo Angelini. Like all of us, Matteo is also a medical student close to graduation. So he definitely understands the struggle of building a strong CV from scratch. And over the years, he has gained lots of experience in structuring his medical CV and using professional tools that have helped him reach important opportunities. So I'm sure we will all learn a lot from him during this session. So hi Matteo, welcome.
Thank you so much, and hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And today, as mentioned, we will explore one of the most important topics for all of us at our stage of education and throughout our career, which is how to essentially stand out and be competitive out there. And I think the most important means to do so is our CV, which is the most objective instruments and tool that we have to really stand out among many applicants in many different occasions. So without further delay, my name, as mentioned, is Matteo. I'm a final year med student from San Raffaele University in Milan, and I'm also a PhD student from Amsterdam UMC in the Department of Plastic Reconstructive Surgery. Just a very quick introduction and about myself. I have nothing to disclose during this presentation. It's only built for you guys. And just a quick background notes about myself and why I'm here to tell you this story. Mainly is just to share my experience, which is a very, I would say, internationally based experience. I've been seeking training opportunities abroad since my very first year of med school, and even before. I did a semester abroad in Sydney during my high school years, and then I kept seeking those opportunities during med school, during my Erasmus traineeship in Amsterdam, which ended up being my research internship that allowed me to get into the PhD program, and then a couple of experiences of research and clinical experience in the US, mainly research-based on my third year in Boston, in Pittsburgh, and now I'm currently in New York City doing my second sub-internship in plastic and reconstructive surgery and orthopedic surgery right now. And this is why I'm here, and this is why I'm very happy to share my experience. I think that my CV and the way I presented myself played a role in allowing me to do all of these, and I think it's a very important tool that you have in your hands to do so. As you can see here, no better way to start this session than like showing what I tried to build and what I think works for me. It's not perfect, not at all, and I don't wanna present it as perfect, but some tips and things that I will share with you today are based on my own, of course, experience and the tips that other people especially gave to me, that to whom I'm very thankful, because they helped me a lot through my journey so far, and this is what I want to do essentially today. Last important thing before starting, I think we'll keep the questions for the end, but please feel free to write them down, write them in the chat, I think, and at the end we'll have all the questions and make sure to address all of them. Okay, now stop talking about me, and we'll start talking actually about you guys a lot during this session together. First of all, the most important thing that I want to emphasize is that your CV is not just a list of everything you've done. It is a list of everything you've done, but it's not just that. Everyone would say that a CV is a very objective tool and a very objective list indeed, but it has some, as we'll see at the end, it has to be tailored also to your objective and to the goal you are aiming to, and we'll see what I mean in a moment, hopefully. Even before going through more details, I wanted to thank you all, not just for being here, but also for being so active during this session by submitting your CVs before, so I could go through them and revise them a little bit. We received a very big number of CVs, 12 of them. I wasn't expecting so many going in. So thank you so much for that. We have a very huge international participation today, and also a very broad representation in terms of career stages. However, I would say that I haven't found a perfect CV yet, which is good actually, because this is why we are here today. There were very good CVs among them, very competitive CVs already. So big congratulations to all of you for everything you have already achieved. But we can still improve something in those CVs to make them I would say, close to perfection. So first of all, first point is why CVs often fail to achieve their goal. We'll explore some of the common mistakes that people usually have on their CV. Most important, you have to understand that you know everything on your CV. I'm sure about that. It's not actually that common that people know everything they have written on their CVs. Probably they were listed in a research paper, which has like 10th author of the research paper, and then they haven't even read it. But for the most, I'm sure you know what you have listed on your CV. However, other people don't, and most of the times, actually, they don't really care about what you have done and how amazing you have been in your training. They usually screen them very, very fast, and this is why you guys want your CV to be very impressive at a very first and quick look for the reviewers. We'll see in a moment that this goes a lot to also formatting your CV appropriately and make it easier and make it very easy for the reviewer to find the information they are looking for, because the first seconds of screening will decide whether they will keep going in reading your CV or not. They are looking, of course, to who you are, your experience, and also if the document and if you put the effort in providing them with a very good shaped CV that is a very telltale sign of how much effort and how much dedication you have put in the CV, and how much dedication you probably put in the position job that you are applying for. So do not disregard all these aspects because they're very important in deciding whether they will go for further with your application or not. Some mistakes that I directly found in your CVs is the fact that most of you didn't have a profile section. It's not actually a big deal. We've seen a moment, and it's not always a requirement. But in general terms, as you have seen in my CV at the beginning, I don't have in that one a profile section for a specific reason. But in general terms, I would say a profile section, so a short summary of who you are and what we've done is a good starting point, and we'll see why in a moment. I've seen most of them, I've seen a list of generic soft skills, which everyone has on their CV. But as we'll see in a moment, most of the time, they just occupy place and they are not space, and they are not useful, and they just like make longer CVs, which are less likely actually to be reviewed by people. Some of them have photos included, which, as you have seen in my CV, I have a picture of myself for a specific reason, but it's not always a good idea. I would say again, in general terms, I would try to avoid any picture of yourself because that can introduce some bias in the reviewers, and also additional pictures, they are not needed in the CV. Is not the place to have them. And of course, I would say the most common but also most avoidable of the mistakes is having typos or placeholder text that we should avoid, should always avoid. Going through a little more of this profile section that I mentioned in the beginning, I've seen, as I mentioned, I see that you guys have already, most of your CVs have listed this profile section. It's a very good instinct, so well done. It is basically a short summary that we place at the beginning of the CVs, a narrative summary, a couple of sentences that describe who we are and adds a little bit of personal touch to a very objective grocery list that CVs end up being. However, it's not always a requirement, and in some cases it should be avoided. For example, as I mentioned, I'm very focused on a career, a medical career in the US, for example. And if you guys are familiar with these, you know, for example, ERAS, which is the portal to apply for US residency. This specific portal, as many other application systems in the US, there is a requirement to submit a personal statement together with additional documents such as your CV. In this case, it's not helpful, it's not required, and you should not have a profile section on your CV, because that's the purpose of the personal statement, to tell them more about yourself in a narrative way. So you should avoid having a repetition of that section in your CV. in a more European-based perspective, generally speaking, I think having a profile section is very helpful. It's very helpful because here having personal statement is not that common usually with your application. Most people would just submit their CV. So it's good to have a very short summary presenting yourself in the best way possible. Just one line, very short sentence. For standalone application that are specific and tailored to a specific position job, I would say you can even add a little more of why you are the right person for that specific internship, grant application, whatever. Because I think in this specific and tailored case, it can be helpful to and can help them screen you amongst other applicants at a first read, as we said, in those first 7 seconds that it takes to screen the CVs. In this profile section, you should answer briefly, very briefly, 2 specific questions: who you are, what you've done, and where you're going. And we'll see why how it works in a moment. The most important message in this profile section is that you wanna show off. You wanna show who you are in 3 sentences and why you are an amazing, the perfect match for that job, for that position. And it has to be very evidence-based, not just like generic terms, poems or whatever. As you can see here, the first version, the before version is a very general statement that anyone could say. Any one of you guys in the Mission Brain Network, I think, can be a very curious person for neurosciences, and can be can have a very resilient mindset, and be interested in complex science and patient care. They just list any medical students. Basically, we are all very passionate about our patients. We are all very passionate about science. I'm sure that you want to tell who you are and why you are why you are different from other people or from other med students in this case. So you can say your age, your level of education for sure, but even more importantly, you have to say something that you have done that really puts you aside from other applicants, as you can say in this after example. You don't have to make up things if they're not real, of course, but this already gives me some more perspective on a person that has have done some training, that has an international background, because I've done some research in Cape Town, as you can see, and that was also selected for a competitive program. So this is a tailored and personalized personal statement profile section without making up things. Here there is another example of a person that tells us their position. As you can see, is a very early stage CV, so probably this person will not have much experience yet, but as you can see already was able to tailor their profile section in an interesting way, and also to clarify specifically their goal, which is to develop and achieve structural research skill, mentioning also what kind of skills they want to achieve, and also mentioning the areas in which they want to achieve those skills. It's not just a general interest for these areas, but it is a clear direction that this person gives you to the reviewer about what they want to achieve through this position. And here 4 bullet points summarizing all of this. We want to be very, very specific, very concrete about our previous experience, and honest about the stage, and also we want to provide a clear direction and clear objectives that we want to achieve through the job we are applying to. So going on and leaving the profile section behind, we want to now explore a little bit more the anatomy of a CV, and these are all sections that should be in your CV, differently from the profile section. And mainly, I like to have 8 sections on a specific CV. They're not all needed, of course, if you haven't done any kind of research, or if you haven't had any kind of award or done extracurricular activities, you don't have to list them. But what I would do is to try and address all these sections, or if you're not done any kind of research yet, I would try to, of course, during your and based on what you are aiming to do, I would try to fill this gap during your training. You don't have to be to have an H index of 5 at the end of your medical training, of course, but showing some interest for the field through research. I'm sure you are very well aware about that. You are very well aware how important it is nowadays for most jobs, also for most clinical jobs. So we'll explore all of these sections one by one, but this is a general overview for you to have. And very important at this point is avoiding repeating the very same skills that I found in every single sections of most of your CVs, which is having developed teamwork, leadership skills, time management, communication skills, critical thinking, problem solving, adaptabilities. We all know you have all these skills, and everyone does nowadays. Listing them in your CV only takes space from something else, I would say, and it's not helpful for the reviewer to just read those terms, because again, they know that you have all these skills because everyone else does. What you want to do is to show that you have these skills through your experience, through your research, through your clinical involvement, through your degree. You want to the volunteering positions that you had in the past. You want to show that you have them without listing them in your CV necessarily. How do we do that? As you can see, there are some tips here. For example, we can not example these specific things. We will explore these areas in a moment. But what the kind of things that you want to list in your CV are objective things that can be really useful for them. For sure, they will need someone that has leadership and teamwork skills, but you can show that you have those skills through your previous job position as a research manager, as a coordinator, whatever. What they are looking for is specific skills that you can provide them, such as research skill, statistical analysis skills, languages. All those are very important. The rest has to be proven through your own experience and through your own involvement in the past. Starting off by clinical experience, which is the first important section of your CV. Apart from, I will not go through the degree and education, whatever, because that's very standard. You just list your university and the degree course you are attending, and I think that's it. But we'll see at the end some specific formatting requirements for this. But starting off from the very important section from a medical student CV, that is the clinical experience. Again, another very important concept here is you want to be specific. You don't just want to list that you have done some rotations, because everyone has done some rotation during their medical education. It's part of the part of the curricula everywhere. So you want to really tell them what kind of rotation you've done and the skills you acquired through the rotation. How do we do that? By addressing these points that I've listed here, telling them, of course, what you have done, which is not rotation, not only rotation in general surgery at this hospital. Of course, you have to say that, but it's also more tailored to the specific procedures you have observed or you have scrubbed in, and also the number of procedures you have scrubbed in, the number of patients the number of cases and patients that you were managing, because already having just a number there brings your reviewer to a very different level, brings them to a generic list of rotations that anyone can have done to a specific volume and number of cases that you specifically managed and that you specifically scrubbed in. Saying that I watched some flap reconstructions is not the same as saying that I scrubbed in 10 flap surgeries during my internship, because 10 flap surgeries is a lot, it's a huge number for them, and it's very different from say that you just have seen some procedures in plastic surgery, for example. Of course, you have to list the institution, the city, and the name of the department, and if possible, also of the mentor, the attending, or the resident that you rotated with for the same reason, because it provides an anchor to reality for the reviewer. And also you can put some highlight in this section, say something very cool that you have done during the rotation, that only you have done, and that really set you apart from other students. For example, during my first SAVAI here in New York City, I was scrubbed in a flap, in a free flap surgery for breast reconstruction that it took 16 hours to complete, and we stayed in the OR, of course, with some breaks, from 8 in the morning until 2 at night approximately. And this is a very important thing to list in your CV, because it was a huge case. It showed that you were really into the surgery, and I was really loving being there. I could stay there for other 2 days if they asked me to. So this really shows how passionate you are about the field, and that you can work hard for achieving your goal. Okay, and again, this is an example of how a generic statement in this section could appear, just listing that you have done a rotation at hospital, and gaining experience in multiple specialties is not helpful because it's a generic statement. Saying as this person among you did that they did a neurosurgical internship in Guarda Hospital in a specific time frame, and they participated in ward and activity and OR activities, review neuroimaging, and also observe cases and management workflows is very different from the first line. I'm sure you agree with this. This can be further improved by also adding the number of patients that they managed, the number of cases that they managed, the number of cases they scrubbed in or they observed. Of course, there's always room for implementation, but this is already a very good starting point. Pre-med also, clinical experience matters a lot. If you have done some form, I know that having pre-med education is not very common in Italy or other European countries, because we usually go to med school directly after high school. But if you've done any kind of medical clinical experience outside of your med school, of course, it's worth listing. Actually, it shows, especially in a US-based system, it shows that you are really into the field and you are not just fulfilling the requirements of your medical curriculum, your medical education, but that you are really interested in the field. Saying that you volunteer as a Croce Rossa, as a healthcare healthcare, I do say that, as a volunteering healthcare provider, or for the administration of vaccines, or a nursing facility. All these things really show commitment to the field and to patient care, which ultimately is the goal of most clinical jobs. And of course, if any of you have seen that was a person amongst you that has a previous nursing degree, which is really cool, because not most of us don't have. And something that I want to share with you with my personal experience, for example, here in the US, and I've seen it a lot during my hands-on rotations here, is that having those kind of nursing skills, the one that we typically regard as nursing skills in Italy, is very important, because most of those, again, nursing skills will actually be medical doctor skills here. We take care of our patients way more than physicians do in Italy. We change the dressings, we round them every morning. Of course, that depends also on the hospital, but we do way more hands-on stuff with our patients that normally are done by the nurses in Italy than in other countries, again. So having those kind of background surely will help you if applying to any of those positions. Again, okay, this was it for the clinical internship section. Let's go on to a more academic based section, which is that of research and publication. I already said how important research is nowadays. So we want to try to have some form of research involvement in our CV, in our medical student CV. Nowadays, it is one of the major factors, for example, for applying to competitive surgical or not surgical specialties in the US. I'm sure you're aware of that. Applying to plastic surgery here requires multiple research items listed on your CV, and even more for other specialties, for example. How should you list your research? If you have multiple items, you should have some form of, you should put them in a specific order, which can be a chronological order, but what I would recommend is having them in order of importance, of relevance. So starting from, of course, peer-reviewed publication, and if you have multiple of those, you can list them in chronological order, of course. Always include the journal name, the year of publication, the DOA, to prove that the journal, the article is real and trackable. And also always include your, of course, the list of author, your name, and you can either say that you were first author, of course, but we can always see your position in the list of authors. So what I would do personally is either leave the list of author as it is, or you can bold your name to show if you were first author, eighth author, or last author, or whatever. Then you can also list submitted research works. Of course, you have to be clear of the fact that it was submitted and to what journal was submitted. For example, the ERAS portal has a full list for submitted but not published article yet. And then you can also list I would say in a separate section. This is why it's color coded. In a different section, I will list the abstracts and the presentation, the poster presentation that you did. If you have multiple items, again, if you only have a couple of one paper, for example, and one poster presentation, you don't need to have two different sections. That will only add space. I will only have a generic research experience section and list the paper, clarifying that it was a published peer-reviewed paper, and also the poster, for example, clarifying that was a poster presented at this conference on this specific date. And you should have oral presentation before poster, because they usually carry more weight, of course. And if you were the presenting author, again, try to make it more noticeable, bold your name and underscore your name, whatever works for you. Yeah, again, these are 5 rules that you want to have on your research section on your CV. Of course, as I said most of those. You can also describe again ongoing projects if you wish to. I would again have a way of distinguishing the ongoing projects from the published or submitted research. You can either have them in the research section if you wish to. What I personally prefer is having those under my general experience section at the beginning, where I'm saying, yes, I did this research, I'm doing this research internship at this institution, and I'm working on this specific project right now. I prefer to have that there and not repeating them in the research section. But again, that's probably because I have already some items in my research section on my CV, and I prefer to keep it more organized that way. But this is something that you can tailor to your own situation. And last but not least, if you have done some research activities that is not only related to publishing articles, as we all know. For example, peer reviewing for a journal. This is huge, actually. Is a huge skill that you, if you have it, and kudos to you if you have the time, effort to do that. That should be listed on your experience section and not in your research section, because that's mainly usually for published research items that you or presented that you published items that published or presented items. More than research experience or research activity. But again, peer reviewing is a very important skill to have, and I would definitely have it on your CV. Again, okay, these are some examples from your CV. For example, this is a very good example of how you should list a research item, or this is a publication. Again, title, journal age, the role as a second author. Congratulations to this person, and everything is there, the DOI. Again, example of the peer review activity, for example, that I would have it on the experience section at the beginning, or whatever is more appropriate to you, but not under the same list as the research items. One very important take home from this section is that you don't have to be a PhD to have your own research listed on your CV. You don't have to have multiple items to have your own research listed. Only one publication, one project, even if it's not a major journal, even if it's your medical school journal, whatever, shows commitment, shows that you are interested into the field and that you have done some work, and that's very important as a telltale factor of who you are and of your work attitude and ethic. Okay, so yeah, this is it for this section. And so try to have it and try to really show off in your CV, even if you didn't publish into the New England or Lancet, you don't need that. Some people will need it, but not all of us. So don't worry about having those really huge names on your CV at your early stages, specifically. Going on to extracurricular activity. This is a very debated section, very complex section, because everyone would just try to fill in their CVs to have like 3 pages CV listing all kind of activities, membership that they have. Again, if a CV is if we have a multiple page CV, that would actually decrease the chances that our reviewer really goes through all the pages, and that's even more likely if those 5 pages are filled with the very same list of items, such as those soft skills that we talked about at the beginning, or a list of memberships that do not tell a lot about who we are and what we have done in the past. So what I would ask ourselves is, while I'm listing this entry in this section, for example, professional membership to some specific organizations, does this entry really set me apart from other people or not? For example, if you were awarded a specific position in a professional organization, that's very important to have it. But if you only apply to a Google or online form to a free membership in a specific society, I don't want to say it's not helpful to have that in your CV, because it shows that you are interested and committed to a field, but it's just there to take some space. What I would do personally is trying to say what you achieved to that position, to that membership. For example, if you are a member of the Plastic Reconstructive Surgery Journal Medical Student Committee, you have to be involved in their case discussion on their social media, asking questions. You have to be a very active participant to be in this specific committee. And again, this is not only being part of that committee, but it shows that you are working towards this goal, and that you are an active member contributing to that organization. This is something that you want to have in your CV. For example, for myself, I am a member also of the American Society for Peripheral Nerve Surgery, and that for the social media committee, this includes that I sometime twice per year, I do their Instagram posts, I do the Instagram stories, I take care of the social media pages. Again, this is different from just being a member of the society. It shows active involvement, active participation in the activities of the society. And if I were you, what I would do is, again, try to or aim for this kind of position first of all, because they are stronger in your CV than a general professional membership, of course. And if you have this kind of position, do not limit yourself to say that you are in this specific committee, but also tell them what you do through that specific committee and how it helps your career and your building your own training and education. As you can see here in the strong or strongest, strong would be me, strongest would be one of you actually, so well done. Where you list what kind of position you have occupied, you have had in a specific professional organization, and how that evolved, or how you improved in that specific to that specific role, advanced to that specific role. Again, this is another example, the same person probably, showing that there is a progression in the involvement through Mission Brain in this case, and that validates that they really earn this kind of leadership position. And this, again, as an example of what I was saying in the very first slide, this shows me that the candidate I'm reviewing has leadership skills, and it is a true, and also team working and all those kind of soft skills, because they progress to being just a member, to being a chief, to be chief of the networking team, to be supervisor, and to be also regional chair for a European, so an international organization. This shows me that this person worked hard and has leadership, networking, and team management skills, more than just listing those skills in their CV. So this is a very good example. And here I have more of those examples that I found on your CVs. Congratulations to all of you for having done this. For example, and again, it's not only related to your medical education; it can be related to anything else. Actually, the extracurricular section in this case should be the place where you list all your talents and all your skills outside of the medical field. For example, you have very good examples of people being people showing their skills and their extracurricular education. And this is very good to have. And they tell me that you have hobbies outside of medical school, that you are people, not only machines and medical students. And you will be surprised how important this is, because at the end of the day, whether that is a clinical internship position or a research internship position, first of all, supervisor people want to work with like-minded people, with nice people, with people that that do have a life outside of medicine, and that they are nice people to work with. So showing that you have interests and hobbies outside of your own education is very, very important. And this is the place to show it, of course, if you have some objective achievements that you had through this. But also you can have, of course, at the end, an hobby section where you just list your hobbies if you want, if you have the space for that, without having achieved anything through them. And this is also very important, because we don't only have to be big achievers in our life, but also to be nice people with a lot of hobbies. One of the last sections today is fatal errors and how to avoid them, and why you should avoid them. Of course, typos are the most avoidable errors that you can have on your CV. And I would say, I'm being dramatic here, if I see a typo on your CV, I will not just throw it in the bin, because I know that it's not a sign of how much you care. But probably not all people would think the same. And if they see a very bad typo in the title or whatever, they would just disregard the CV or use that as a screening criterion to disregard your CV. So they are very easy to be avoided. So avoid them. How we do that? I would say, through reading carefully, having a person reading your CV for you. But is this needed nowadays? I don't think so, because we have all the people we need nowadays, especially for those boring tasks, such as checking typos, checking placeholders. So use them wisely. They would not probably be the best for building your CV, because as much as you think they may know you because you have been telling them your whole life, they are not you. Ultimately, they don't really know the position. You can use them to brainstorm, to have advice on your CV, but I wouldn't let them build a CV, or I would just let them build a draft of your CV, but I would revise it carefully. I would definitely use AI tools to check for typos and to check for those very basic and avoidable errors that can be on your CV. to go back, and not only typos, also placeholders. It's very good to use a template, and you can look online for some templates. I would use the one, for example, for Harvard University is the one I use. I would try to share it with you with the slides or whatever means we have to share material. I would use those CVs, very standardized template to build your CV, but of course, be very careful of filling all the gaps in those CVs and the placeholders before submitting it. And again, ask ChatGPT or whoever for those typos that you have missed, and some other formatting things that I would say. Again, we talked about pictures and photos. Try not to have them in your general CV. Most position, if they require or if they want a picture of you on your CV, they will specify it in their application requirements. So if they don't specify it, avoid pictures of yourself and any kind of photo on your CV. Use standardized metrics of evaluation. For example, for language skills, use the CFR levels to address it. Do not include anything else on your CV. It's not a place to have a letter of recommendation, to have a personal statement, or to have a privacy statement if not specifically required by the position you are applying to. Again, we are talking about general CVs nowadays. And last, probably but not least, actually for many of you, I would say it's one of the most important topic of today, and it is becoming one of the most important tool that we have to stand out nowadays, to gaining jobs, to gaining opportunities. We all know how important social medias are nowadays, but we must also be aware of how dangerous they are. LinkedIn in the Italian way has gained much more popularity in the US, I would say, and has gained much more popularities worldwide after the passing of the little blue bird on this slide, Twitter, which is now X, and Twitter, X, used to be the social media of science. Of course, it was always different. It has always been different from LinkedIn. It was not built to have your CV, but it used to be the social media of science. Now, with the new leadership, has become something else. Most people are not using them, not using it to share research or medical updates anymore, and more people are turning to other social media platforms such as Instagram and LinkedIn again to share their research, to share their position and whatever. And LinkedIn, of course, is very it is tailored to your own to be your own social media CV essentially, but it has to be distinguished from your paper CV, of course. That is a document that is to be tailored and that remains standard and fixed in time. Usually you should update it, but it is a paper document that cannot be updated real time, I would say. LinkedIn is a living CV. You should update it continuously with every single experience and step that you do during your training. And the most important point of this slide, it is a place for networking. It is the cloud-based space for networking. It is a daily, a continuously ongoing conference where you meet people and where you can gain a lot of opportunities. So try to have a very well-built LinkedIn page, updated constantly, connect with people. When you meet people in real life, try to connect with them on LinkedIn as soon as possible. Most time they probably won't see your request, but sometimes they do, and can be a very important place whenever you post to remind them who you are and that you are working hard towards your goal. And trust me, it's not that common yet in Italy probably, but in US it's a very important tool nowadays. So especially if you are aiming to this kind of training positions, try to take the time to build a very nice LinkedIn page. These are some tips that I would do to build the LinkedIn page in a good way. Write an headline that has to be very short, showing just who you are, and your, of course, professional position. Then you have an about section that has to be there, has to be filled, and has to be it's probably the most important section because it's the first one that people would see, telling them who you are essentially, and they would usually read it. So keep it short and keep it very focused. Try to frame it in third person. I know it's weird. It sounds weird if you're talking about yourself in third person. If you look on my LinkedIn page, my page would say Matteo Angelini is a MD candidate, MD student, something like that, PhD candidate, whatever. It's weird to say, to talk about myself in third person, but I think it's just nicer than say, hi, hello, I am a medical student. It's not the place. It's kind of like someone was right. It's a kind of a article about yourself, so you should write it in third person. That's my advice, and keep it very professional and focused. Post constantly about your work, what you're doing, your research updates. You can also use it in general to share your thoughts about something. Of course, it has to be worked or academically related, but you can use it to share what you think about a new paper that just came out. That's very nice and will help you engage with the right people, the right connections actually. And this was what people would do on Twitter. Usually nowadays people are increasingly doing that on LinkedIn as well. Connect again internationally, keep it customized to you. And with this customization, I would go more into tailoring. Very briefly, actually, people usually think that a CV is a standard document that you can use for and send it over to anyone. It could be. What I would try to do, especially if you really care about the position and you're not just applying to anything because you need a job desperately, I would try to tailor it to the specific position. As I mentioned in the beginning, and now here we are, a CV can be tailored based on the program you're applying to. Of course, you cannot change it completely. It always has to have kind of the same section, but if you're applying to a research position, I would heavily stress the research experience part of your CV compared to the clinical part. I would place it before other sections, for example. I would really stress that. I would add all those items that you probably cut off from your standard CV because they were not useful. For example, if you presented a poster at a national conference, probably if you don't have space, you cut it from your general CV, but you can include that poster in your research-based, in your research-focused CV, for example. Same thing on the other hand, if you're applying to a clinical position, I would really heavily stress your clinical internship section way more than I would do with the research section, because they're not looking for a researcher, probably. They are looking for a doctor. They're looking for someone with clinical skills more than knowing how to do a multivariate logistic regression. If you are applying to the US international position, of course, I would tailor it to that specific position, showing why you are the right person to be there and why you can compete to a similar population. If you're applying to US residency, for example, you want to compete with, I know it's not the best word to hear, but it is true, you want to compete with the US medical students. So you try to be like them and try to show that you are you can compete with them in a good sense, I would say. Last slides. This is a checklist that I would leave you, so feel free to have it, take pictures or whatever, or what you should always check before submitting your CV. Careful about the profile sections, as we said. We use it as a summary of this talk today. Careful about the profile section can be very helpful, but understand if you need it or not. Avoid typos or placeholders. And I didn't stress this enough probably, but how important formatting is for your CV. Please use the very same font for all your CV. Use a clear font, nothing like I don't know, weird something fonts. Use a Time Roman, a Colibri, those kind of Arial, those kind of very standardized font. I will use Times New Roman probably. Keep it at a good dimension, for example, font size 10, 12. Try to differentiate title section in a very good way. Just have your best looking CV in terms of formatting without adding colors, without adding anything that can distract your reader from your work experience. But keep it very well organized. Again, no photos if not required. Again, same format for listing your publications, your research items. Avoid having generic soft skill, generic items on your CV that do not tell anything specific about yourself. Try to tailor it. Work on your LinkedIn page. Use AI wisely to help you prepare the best profile, best resume, the best CV that you can. And of course, try to think of those first few seconds that take to people to screen your CV, and try to meet them in those first seconds. And these are very last slide, 3 things that I want you to remember about our talk today is that having a very tailored and specific CV on yourself beats the amount of pages that you have. Actually, your goal with the CV would be to have a specific CV that tells who you are and why you yourself are amazing in just a couple of pages maximum. 1, ideally 2, 3 the most. I know that if you have a very impressive and strong CV, it's hard to have a 2-page CV. It's not your fault, actually. It's your merit. But try to keep it very well organized and short so people can really go to the section they are looking for, and try to be a telltale story of who you are and why you are the right person for that position, by also tailoring it to every specific position you are applying to every time, if you have the time, if you have the effort. And remember that your CV, as your LinkedIn, I would say, is always a draft, and please update it as you advance to your training every time, because you will be surprised how many times this happened to me also. But at some point, you will need your CV. You will be like, okay, I have my CV. Where did I place it in my computer? And you will find a CV and you didn't name it properly, you didn't update it in a while, and you don't remember if it is the most updated one, if it is the last you submitted, if you edit anything on that CV. So trust me. I know that you trust yourself more, but trust me in this at least. Try to keep it very well organized. Type in the file name the date you last modified it every time, and keep it updated day by day. Even if you don't need it tomorrow, if you did something amazing today, try to update it today and not whenever you need it. Last example, and then I'll stop talking. For example, to give a true example of what I mean by this, during, for example, this rotation, this abide that I did now in New York, I would have a specific number of cases which I would scrub in every day, specific number and of patients that I would see myself, and a specific role on those cases. What I wasn't doing at the beginning, and unfortunately I learned it a little too late, is I wasn't keeping track of the specific cases I was scrubbing in. And believe me, after a couple of weeks, it took me ages to track back and find what specific cases and the number of cases I was managing day by day, because I couldn't remember them. I trust my memory way more than I could, and it took me ages to go back to those cases, to have a specific, and again very specific and ground-based evidence of what I've done during this rotation. So I think that's it for my tips, my recommendations for your CVs today. Good luck with your professional growth, with your dreams, and remember that a good shaped CV is the first step in this journey for most of the times. And I think I would leave it to the questions that you guys have for me. Sorry if that went a little too long, but I'm here for any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Matteo, for this great talk. I think we all learned a lot. And I actually wanted to comment in some things you mentioned. For example, thank you so much for clarifying this part about research. But for example, I had a question regarding many students I know do screening as their first part on helping out with research. Do you think screening could be added to... Wait, I'm sorry. I think Matteo cannot hear me now. Hello? Oops. Hi, Matteo, can you hear us?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I was talking on my own, I think. I just wanted to thank you once again for this presentation. And I wanted to comment on some things you mentioned, for example, research. So I know many students begin their research activities with screening. Do you think screening is something you should add to your CV?
You mean screening in the sense of like literature review?
Like helping out with papers, because as students, we
definitely. I would definitely have that. I would definitely have that. Unfortunately, this is something that I really noticed through my international abroad experience most of the time. I would say we have this kind of attitude in Italy where we don't really recognize the huge work that most medical students do in the research field. Most of the time, I know that you guys study research because you are interested into, as I did actually myself, because you are interested into research. You start by helping out with this database that takes you forever to fill in, and most senior doctors, senior researcher would not like to do that, so they would just leave it to the med students to do. And at the end of the day, most times you are either not recognized at all in the paper, recognized not as an author, even if you did way more than most of the authors of that paper, and believe me, this is very true. Or what was saying, not recognized at all, or you just put a lot of effort and not having the recognition that you need, because that's a huge contribution to the paper, filling out a database or doing literature review. But definitely it is something that you have to mention in your CV. If no one is advocating for you in this sense, advocate for yourself. Have that on your CV, definitely. And I would also like share a personal also recommendation in this regard. Not only add on your CV, but try also to have that recognition from the people, because you deserve it. And ask, don't be afraid to ask if that contribution can be worth your name among the authors, because that's totally fine, and it is your right. If you see in the author definition requirements, whatever, most journals, an author is something that contributed substantially to a paper, and that again it is your role most of the time. Or ask what you can do actively apart from collecting the data or anything else to be named in that paper, because that set expectation clearly from the beginning, and at the end you can follow up and not just work because you need to work. Of course, we all know that we need to work hard, all these things to achieve our goals, but you're not working for free entirely, even if you're not paid, I would say.
Thank
These
you.
are my advice in this regard, but definitely have it on your CV.
Thank
and
you.
advocate for your rights.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really helpful advice, actually. Another thing I wanted to comment was regarding active participation. As a student, if you go to a congress, for example, but you don't present any poster, you're just there as a member, will you add that to your CV?
Personally, I wouldn't add it, not directly, at least on any like section as a dedicated item, because again, it doesn't really help me a lot in like telling what you have done. I mean, if you attended a conference, you can also just be there for the buffet or for the food and free drinks. I don't really know. I would definitely add it if you were awarded the conference for some reasons, if you gain a scholarship to go there, because again, you should have done something to earn the scholarship. Or if you, I would add it in another way, probably. For example, you were doing your Erasmus trainship in another country, for example, and during that time you attended the national conference. If you were like in orthopedic surgery, you attended the national orthopedic surgery conference in the country, or the hospital conference, or whatever conference. I would say that was part of your training experience that you did, but not as a separate item in your CV unless you presented or you submitted something.
Okay, so try to be more active, more proactive in the activities you do, basically.
That's general, but also, in general, I would say that, but also not listing useless thing on your CV, because at the end, I mean, it doesn't have to be a 3 pages CV from the beginning. Try to build it in the first stages of your career, not just fill in the gaps, but eventually will fill in eventually. But try to like keep it very well organized and not mentioning those kind of things that do not add anything about your own profile. More helpful would be, for example, not just attending the conference or that organization, but try to be an active member of the organization, as I was mentioning. Try to join their med students committee and work with them. Ask what you can do as a med student to help them. Try to join their social media committee. I know you guys, you are all amazing at social media networking nowadays. So why don't you try to join the social media committee if they want? Usually they will be more than happy to have someone that manages those kind of tasks for them. And that's active participation, and that's definitely something that you can have on the CV. And for example, under the social media committee section, you can have that you were at a conference and you were taking the pictures there, you were taking care of the posts, you were interviewing the people at the conference. That's something I would have on my CV.
Cool. Interesting. Thank you so much. And now I'm gonna read to you some of the questions we have from the chat. We have a third-year medical student who's aiming to get into neurosurgery residency program in Australia. Since it's very competitive, she's considering doing her PhD to increase her chances of matching into this specialty. She says, As you mentioned, I already have fairly strong leadership experience, but I think a PhD could further strengthen my application. Could you please share some advice on how to find PhD opportunities as a medical student?
Sure, definitely. First of all, I would say really consider and think if a PhD position is the right choice. And I'm not saying it's a wonderful experience, it's a wonderful degree and a wonderful path to chase. But it is a very heavy commitment most of the times. And it is a research job, it is a research position at the end, it is a research degree at the end of the day. In most cases, you said they're looking for neurosurgery residency. You'll be a surgeon, you'll be a clinician, you'll be a physician. You'll not be a researcher, even though, again, I stressed multiple times how important research it is during this presentation, but you are applying for a clinical position. So really think if a PhD position would help you towards a goal. I don't specifically know about Australia and about the residency programs that you are referring or that you are aiming to. Probably most of them have PhD requirements, or most people that are there and match there are PhD. So that could be a sign that it's worth pursuing this path, this long path. But really think if it is the right choice. I will provide a really basic example for this. In the US, again, we all know how research has become a huge part of the application system. If you're thinking of neurosurgery, for example, there are people with up to hundreds of publications before matching into neurosurgery. For sure, they have multiple items. Some of them have also done their PhD, but it is uncommon to see PhD among resident applicants, actually. And the latest research, not about neurosurgery specifically, but in plastic surgery, for example, has shown clearly that having a PhD does not statistically increase your likely to match likely to match into a plastic surgery program in the US. Your research and publication item do, but not having a PhD. A PhD most of the time is a multiple year commitment, at least 3, 4, in the US even 5 years commitment, and that could be a strong gap in your clinical experience and exposure between the end of med school and the year you are applying to residency. So all these things need to be considered, and before choosing that. But at the same time, on the other hand, I would say if you look at the Netherlands, for example, there are another place where I train and where I'm doing my PhD right now. For them to match into surgical residency, and especially a plastic surgery residency, is almost a requirement to have a PhD. If you look at the residents in plastic surgery, they are all old. They are all like older than us usually, because all of them have done a PhD before, and all of them are PhD before matching, because that's the way it works there for competitive specialties. I don't exactly know why. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing my PhD right now with them. Second reason that refers back to the first point is because I was lucky enough to have the position before graduating med school. So I'm already halfway through the PhD, and I could manage to finish my PhD in less time after graduation that a normal PhD program postgraduate would require. These are my specific reasons and the reasons that pushed me into pursuing this journey after thinking a lot about it. So really think about it, and if you thought about it and you decide to go on with this journey, the best way to do that would be to just reach out to the university and supervisor. Usually speaking, doesn't change a lot in amongst countries. You should look for a supervisor before starting the PhD, exploring their willingness to be your supervisor for a PhD, and and then of course, going through the specific university requirement for the PhD position. And then you would talk with them about funding and all these aspects, but usually the process starts by identifying a supervisor, PI, how you want to call them, and then taking care of all the rest. Sometimes hospitals, research institutes, whatever, institutions in general have a dedicated job page, because PhD is not only a degree, it's usually a paid job most of the time, fortunately. I would go to the job opportunity, job listing page of the institution and look there for openings in PhD openings. That's another way of finding this position, but usually you will not find the specific area of research that you are interested into. To do that, I would reach out to the people specifically, and again, draft a very good CV, send a letter, personal statement, something that tells about you, and whatever other requirements they may have, letter of recommendations, all this kind of stuff that you want to have them. Sorry for being so long.
No, thank you so much.
Question.
She actually says thank you so much for answering. She looked into it, so yeah, thank you.
Great.
Now switching topics, there's another question. If one has work experience that isn't relevant to that position, should it still be included, or is it considered irrelevant?
Definitely have it. I didn't mention it today because I don't think it's very again, medical student related, so that's why I try to avoid it. But again, if you had a work position, for example, most of us have done some kind of tutoring for other students, for example. And that's very good because it shows that you have teaching skills, tutoring skills. That's huge in our field. I would definitely have it there. I would not have having worked as a waiter or anything else, not because it's not important. Of course, it shows that you have work attitude. So if you have done it during multiple years, if you have done it because you needed to pay for your studies, that's huge and very big congratulations to you for doing that, for putting all this effort. If you have done it for any reason and for a long time, if you have a really heavy job or something like that, I would usually have it on your CV because it shows how committed and how much you can work hard for chasing your dream. But again, I would really think about it and how tailored it is to your CV, to your profile, and to the position you are applying to. If it's only like a summertime job or just like to make some money, which is totally fine, of course, but I would not have it on your CV if not that relevant.
For sure. So if you can make a connection out of it, like during the interview.
For example, same thing could apply to being a professional athlete, for example. Should I include it in a medical CV? Most people would say no, probably. Of course, if you play in your uni team, probably I will not have it there, even if it's great because you're doing that as a casual activity, I would say. But if you're doing it at a professional level, so if you are in a team, national team, you're competing at high level, I would definitely have it there because it shows that apart from your studies, apart from all of that, you can also be a professional athlete. And actually, this is a very important factor. You'll be surprised on how important this is in deciding your whether you will have an interview. And it's also one of the things that always come up during residency interview, for example, interviews for residency position in the US. If you're a professional athlete, or if you have those kind of if you're like a soccer player, all those things, they always come up during the interview. And I was going through this with the program director actually here at the residency program at the hospital I'm rotating at, and he was saying, guys, I always ask people what sports they do during the interview, and that's a very important factor for me, because if I see that a resident has been an athlete or has been has done some sport, I can really trust that he can have a life outside of work, that he can do something else apart from studying and working, that he has the strength, he has the dedication, whatever he was saying. Of course, not all of us needs to be athletes. We can show off different aspects of ourselves. But I was surprised by this reply. He was not mentioning anything about the research. He was not mentioning anything about the clinical profile. I would say I would always ask people about sport, hobbies, and these, and that would be one of the deciding factors, because all of them will have amazing step 2 scores, will have a lot of research items. All of them will have that. It's not a differentiating factor. So yeah, very important to differentiate yourself.
That's very interesting. Who would have thought that, honestly?
Same.
And then another question we have, what about mentioning that I help in organizing a students' conference at my university? Will that count?
Yeah, you should define help again. It depends a lot. If you were the organizer, for example, I know that, and I'm really impressed by it. In Italy now, we have a lot of unis that are trying to organize this conference tailored to math students and to make them more involved into research. And they are great. I've been there last years. They are great opportunities, and I'm very impressed by the people behind them, how much work they put into that. And if you are one of those people, I would definitely have that on your CV. If you are in the organization committee, it shows that you can also organize a conference, even if it's a local level. It doesn't matter that you have that you have done it, and you have potentially the ability to do that bigger, larger and higher level. If you were just like helping out as a volunteer during the conference, probably not. But again, it depends on how important that was, how important the conference was. If you've done it multiple times, it shows like a commitment to the role as a volunteer. Can go to the volunteer section of your CV, for example, extracurricular section of your CV. It depends. Generally speaking, if it's only once and you only helped out, you were a volunteer, I would avoid it. But it depends on how strong the commitment was and how important your role was in that.
We're talking about also persistency on things like being constant.
Yeah. I would say your active contribution to the single event. So if you were in the organizing committee, that's fine, definitely. If you've done it multiple times throughout the years, multiple conference, that shows like commitment, and you show that you have skills in the role, probably. So I would use it.
All right. I'm sorry to hold you for so long, but we have another one. So should medical students include their high school education on their CV? If yes, how detailed should it be, and how far should you include your experiences?
That's a very, very good question, actually. I was thinking about it one of the last time I edited my CV. Until last year, I used to have my high school degree. I'm not sure if it was in this presentation, slide in this presentation, but I used to have it in my CV. I would say it's not anymore. I'm sure about that. It changed when I officially started my PhD. I removed it there because it was no longer helpful for me. It was just adding space. It doesn't really help me a lot. The reason why I kept it there, because I'm done the abroad semester, the abroad study period in Australia during high school, and that was a very important point to have listed together with my high school experience. But apart from that, it doesn't really help being there in my CV. If I send it to the US, they don't even know what is like a scientific liceo and high school. Even if I have my grade there, it doesn't really tell them a lot. It was like a very, very, very good but very small, very good school, but in a very small town in the south of Italy. It doesn't really help me there anymore. And that was particularly true when I started the PhD. So now I have my highest degree, which is the PhD, my MD degree, then, and that's it for that section for me. You can keep it again, especially if there is something really strong as having done a semester abroad or having won a specific competition during your high school, being awarded among the best students in your batch. All these things, sure, I will keep it. If it's only like I've done this high school with and like ended up with this grade, I would not probably. I would focus on your current higher level education.
All right. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Those are all the questions, I believe. So we can move on to the next one. So yeah, guys, this is the once again the link to the direct donation for Mission Brain Foundation to continue doing these events. Your help, it's always welcome. So thank you so much. I'll leave the QR for a couple of seconds. Okay. And this is the QR to share your thoughts on the event. And once again, thank you so much, Matteo, for joining us. It's been really helpful. Everyone's thanking you in the comments, by the way. Yeah, now I'm going to go right now and check my CV and redo everything.
I will probably go as well because there are a lot of things I haven't thought about while preparing this presentation. It's like, okay, probably this section in my CV is not the best right now, actually.
You should all just go and guys, go and update your CVs because
there's always room for improvement, guys. That's the most important thing. So, yeah.
For sure. Anything else you want to add?
No, not really. Thank you so much. Actually, just wanted to thank you all for having me here. It's been a great pleasure to share these tips. My experience with you is always a pleasure. And please also feel free, everyone, to reach out to me. My social media or my emails. There again on my Instagram page. Whatever means you want. I'm a bad texter, but I try to, especially if the request may be helpful for people. I always try to answer timely. So especially now that I'm almost done with the Sabai, I will be there more. So yeah, feel free to reach out, and I'm always very happy to share my experience to help other people achieving their goals. And good luck with everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and big shout out to Matteo to join us from the other part of the world, who joined us during the time with the time zone difference and everything.
Yeah, you can see this is my Sabai face. You can really tell how tired I am right now. But again, that's part of the deal, and we know it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice afternoon for us. Have a nice morning for you, Matteo.
Morning, yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.